Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Joe Bordeaux of the St. Petersburg Sports Alliance. Welcome to our reception and press event this afternoon. 100 years ago this afternoon, February 27th, 1914, at Coffee Pot Ballpark in St. Petersburg, we played our first spring training game here in this city. It was the St. Louis Browns, the Chicago Cubs. I am told that the Cubs won it by a score of 3-2. Well, 100 years later, spring training is a big deal. It is a big deal here in Florida. It's also a big deal, of course, out in Arizona. This afternoon, we're going to really talk about three things, and maybe a couple of additional things beyond that. But the big items have to do with the 100th year celebration of spring training, 100 years ago today, this afternoon. Then we'll talk a little bit about the centennial of Babe Ruth, who broke into pro baseball 100 years ago as well, with the Baltimore Orioles, shortly thereafter the Boston Red Sox. And as most everybody here knows, the Babe spent a lot of quality time here in St. Petersburg. And then we'll talk a little bit about our baseball series coming up at Al Lang Field to celebrate the 100th anniversary of spring training, March 9th through the 16th. The Canadian junior national team, featuring a couple of high draft prospects, will be taking on the Major League Toronto Blue Jays, as well as pro squads from other Major League teams training in the area. So those are our three topics this afternoon. Without further ado, it is an honor for me to welcome the Deputy Mayor of the City of St. Petersburg, Dr. Kanika Tomlin.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you to everyone for being here today. This is an exciting day of celebration here in our city of St. Petersburg, where you can always feel the sunshine, even on the cloudiest days. And we're very proud of many things here, but baseball is at the very top of our list. It's an integral piece of who we are, and so thank you for being here to celebrate our city's 100th anniversary of spring training. As Joe said, here in St. Petersburg, springtime means baseball. It's been this way since the Chicago Cubs beat the St. Louis Browns at Coffee Pot Park 100 years ago. We've hosted many teams since then, most notably Babe Ruth's New York Yankees, Ozzie Smith's St. Louis Cardinals, and of course, our beloved Rays. In fact, in 1998, with the arrival of the Tampa Bay Rays, St. Pete became the team's year-round home for both spring training and the regular season, and we look forward to a great season this year. We've hosted other major league teams, college teams, and international baseball. And in fact, we'll soon be welcoming Team Canada to Al Lang Stadium for games against major league squads and prospects. In 2011, a new spring training tradition began with St. Petersburg International Baseball, drawing 3 international teams from the Netherlands, Canada, and South Korea. Baseball is a part of the fabric of who we are. We want to keep it that way going forward. But for the purposes of today, we look back, we remember, we celebrate and honor 100 years of spring training, the boost it's given our community, its phenomenal economic impact, and all of the wonderful memories baseball has brought our way. Let's celebrate.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Tomlin. Well, the business community, I'm happy to report, is behind the 100th anniversary of spring training, as well as our series at Al Lang Field. I guess to represent the business community, there's no one better than the President and Chief Executive Officer of the St. Petersburg Chamber of Commerce, Chris Steinbecker.
Thanks, sir. All right, I want to play ball right now. Let's go. So, man, what was happening 100 years ago that we were investing in commercial aviation and Major League Baseball? 100 years ago, people, the business community, the community at large, was making this place the place we fell in love with over the past few years. So I first of all want to thank those leaders 100 years ago that had the vision to make this community so wonderful. I also want to thank our Museum of History. This place to me is my home. There's such a rich history of St. Pete, and baseball is one of those. In fact, the Chamber has been very involved. You read in the paper recently that we were involved in that 100 years. We helped fund that effort to bring baseball here. And when I was going through my files, I actually have the original contract from 1922 when we built the stadium for the Boston Braves, the second stadium in our community, Waterfront Park Stadium. So our chamber has been putting up resources and time and energy for over 100 years now to make sure that we have the best in life. We invested in commercial aviation so our people had an opportunity to get around. We invested in baseball so that we, as when we came down here as a visitor or as a full-time resident, that we had the finer things in life. And that's what this community still offers us. And so baseball to me represents us striving to make this a whole community, something that everybody can enjoy, something that our visitors can grasp onto as one of those experiences that they want to come do, something that makes us proud. My son plays for the Rays, not the Tampa Bay Rays, but the Little League team, the Rays. So it's in every generation, and it's something we can pass along to each other. So the Chamber's involved in this. We celebrate 100 years in a very proud fashion. We know we've been part of it. We look forward to continue to be part of it. To me, it's what St. Pete's all about. So thank you all for being here, and let's celebrate this.
I'm going to take a look at that contract in a few minutes. Well, there was the 1914 spring training season. The next year, Mayor Al Lang brought in the Philadelphia Phillies, and it was a good spring training. They went up north, won something like the first 13 of the first 14 games of the season, went on to become the world champions. So as a result, all of the healthful sunshine here in the Sunshine City was proven to be a positive for professional baseball. Speaking of professional baseball, the gentleman who usually is the MC of events such as this, we've asked to be one of our speakers this afternoon instead. We share titles. I am now a senior advisor, so is Don Zimmer, and so is Dick Crippen of the Tampa Bay Rays.
Okay, Joe.
Well, I got to tell you, they asked me to kind of reminisce for just a few moments here. I think the most important thing is what this whole area has produced and what baseball has meant to the entire Tampa Bay area, and specifically here in St. Pete. You're going to meet a young man very shortly who started as a bat boy for the Rays and now is known as a major league pitcher. And he'll tell you a little bit more about that. But that's the kind of future we look forward to as we bring the Rays on, and this year I think we're going to be pretty spectacular. We had 4 guys last year, our entire infield nominated for Gold Gloves, and we have that entire infield back. And we have complemented it. I think the best line that I've heard in the approach to the new season has been that all the answers at the end of last season have been answered. And all the questions anybody had now have been answered, and I think we have a great team. But there have been great moments, and I hope all of you can appreciate the many, many years of baseball that were here. We used to hold a golf tournament, the Pollywogs did, out at Pasadena Golf and Country Club every year. And then we'd have major league players, managers, and what have you playing in that golf tournament. Some of the names that passed through there, I mean, it was in that golf tournament that one day I was supposed to go over to Disney to play a tournament over there, and my kids got sick, and I can only imagine what I was going to have to put up with when I came back home from Disney and they hadn't been with me. So I canceled Disney, and I called one of the guys with the Pollywogs. I said, look, if you need somebody to fill in, I'll be available, but, you know, don't worry about it. Well, I got a call. I said, could you fill in? I said, yeah, but put me with a team that nobody will know, that just wants to go out and have a good time. And they said, fine, no problem. Well, I was walking up to the course, and I'm getting all these elbows, and it's, all right, man, wow, you're okay. Wow, you know, and I'm like, what are you talking about? I go around to the leaderboard. They have me playing with Paul Richardson, who was the then general manager of the White Sox, and by the way, a scratch golfer. The guy with him was Pee Wee Reese. I had grown up in North Jersey, a devoted Brooklyn Dodger fan, and I'm playing with Pee Wee Reese, and also happened to be a scratch golfer. And then Lou Brock, who I mean, he was just phenomenal, still active as a ball player at that point, and myself. and we're on number 1 tee. I'm going, where was this back of the pack business that I asked about? At any rate, first guy gets up there, Richard, and man, he lays that ball down there further than I could see. Pee Wee Reese, who's shorter than I am, there's a reason he was called Pee Wee, and he unleashes one, and he equals Richardson. And I'm looking at that going, I'm lucky to hit maybe a third of that. Lou Brock gets up there, and I'm ready to just quit at this point because I had played a lot with Lazinski when he was with the Phillies, and that guy used to send the ball, you know, way so far down the fairway he'd lose it on line of sight. And fortunately, he putted exactly the same way. You're yelling 4 on the putting green, but at any rate, Brock gets up there, and this is what I'm envisioning. I mean, Lazinski, and I see Brock, and you know he's built and he's ready to swing. He lines up that ball. He takes a whack at that ball, and it goes all the way just past the ladies' tee. And I walked up there so cocksure, I knew I could get it past the ladies' tee. But anyway, he also at that time was manufacturing what they called a brockabrella. A brockabrella fit on your head. It was an umbrella that fit on your head. He insisted that he and I would wear these. So you think of this from an aerial view. Here's a cart sitting down at the green with 2 guys with their feet up and humongous cigars. And here's this other one with 2 guys with these brockabrellas on going up the course like a zipper. That was my game for 18 holes. And it was unbelievable. But I remember doing an auction at the Vinoy, and who comes walking into it, not invited, just walked in, Stan Musial. And he comes up to me and he signals to me, he says, I'll be right back. I'm gonna get some stuff. I said, all right. So he goes out, comes back about 10 minutes later, he's got signed posters to auction off. And then he picks up his harmonica and plays Take Me Out to the Ball Game. I mean, these are moments that absolutely are irreplaceable in the history of St. Petersburg and baseball. So what we're doing, those are just a couple stories that I kind of cleaned up. But in all honesty, it's an unbelievable thing, and it continues to grow. We were talking earlier about the future fans of the Rays, the ones that are now decked out no matter what the parents are wearing, they're wearing Rays, and those are the fans we're looking to. So I want to thank all of you for your support, not only of the Rays, but for baseball in general. And I want you to get out on that international game. You don't know who you'll see. You may see another kid that you've never heard of that all of a sudden, 2 years later, you hear a lot of. So enjoy it, and enjoy tonight, and get some popcorn, because it is a ballpark type thing. Thank you.
All right. Pleasure to introduce someone whose career has not ended. This gentleman will be back in the major leagues before you know it. How's rehab going? Good, good. This gentleman broke in with the Tampa Bay Rays as a bat boy in the year 2000 and made it all the way to the big leagues with the Toronto Blue Jays. Please welcome our major league guest this afternoon, Jesse Litch. Jesse?
Local problem. Yes, it's going to be very hard to follow Mr. Crippen. But I want to thank you for letting me come here. It's my pleasure to be here. Sean Druin and the International Baseball Committee, it's very great to be here and established in the midst of all these, people in the area and guys that and gals that are very into the community and do everything for our community. Because I live here still, and it's a great county, city everywhere to live in. As some of you know, I was born and raised right here in St. Petersburg, Florida. My best childhood memories are playing baseball for Dixie Highlands High School. Yes, we were the Rebels. As a student there, I was able to play, the varsity baseball team, and we went to states one year, but didn't go out so well, not the way we wanted it to go. But I was able to, the first few years of that, I was able to work in I grew up in the Boys and Girls Club in Pinellas Park, and I was able to win an essay contest to go worked for community relations for the Tampa Bay Devil Rays at the time. I know it's bad to say that, but the Rays. And I worked my first year in 2000, and while I was there, they gave me credentials to be in the clubhouse. And me, you know, just being a baseball player, wanting to be around Major League Baseball players, they always found me in the clubhouse. So eventually they offered me a bat boy job, and I mean, my first thought was, okay, let's do it. So 2001, 2002, I was a bat boy for the Rays also, and you know, those 2 years were a great for me, you know, great for I mean, my family. We were able to, you know, watch not just some of the best players that have played the game. I mean, Fred McGriff, I mean, who knows, he should be in the Hall of Fame, hopefully soon. But, you know, guys took care of you, and, you know, I still talk to some of those guys still today. But, you know, being able to come back and speak at a thing like this about stuff like that is a great honor, and I appreciate you guys having me here. I made my first career Major League start May 15, 2007. I'll never forget it. I mean, it was a great day. It was my dad's birthday, ironically, which is awesome. Versus the Baltimore Orioles. I went 8 2/3, and I got pulled because I walked a guy with 1 out left, and they came and got me. But we won 2-1, which was a great thing. I filled in for Roy Halladay, who had emergency appendectomy, and he made it back in 2 weeks, so I was gone in 2 weeks. But I thank him for that all the time. Thank you for having an appendectomy. But right now, I'm going through injuries, and they've set me back. But I mean, for me, it's just another thing, another bump in the road. It's a fight. I mean, I did it growing up here as a kid. It's something you got to keep your mind motivated, keep everything going, and you know, I envision myself back on the mound every day. I was selected by the Colorado Rockies. I didn't end up signing with them out of high school, out of Dixie Hollands, and you know, it's one of those things, you never know who's watching you. If there's kids out here watching, you never know who's watching, and the scouts are everywhere. And then I went to college for 2 years and ended up signing with Toronto Blue Jays. Baseball is a wonderful sport that can be enjoyed at any age. It sets the foundation for lifelong friendships, offers structured environment, creates teamwork, and demonstrates the rewards of a dedicated work ethic. And that is a big thing here in St. Pete, in the community. I know RBI baseball. I grew up playing RBI baseball, and it's one of those things where you got to go out there, and the support from the community is key. And I know it's been there every year. Even when I was playing, it's been there, and it's still there. If there are kids, teens watching or listening, I would say that is the most exciting time of your life. You'll always have so much to look forward to, whether your passion is baseball, as it was for me, or football, music, art, computers, or whatever. You owe it to yourselves to strive as diligently as possible towards achieving your goals. It's through hard work and accomplishment that you will attain happiness, and you deserve to be happy. Take the field or court or classroom knowing that you will give 100%, and most importantly, have fun doing it. This game is definitely the funnest thing I do. Even rehab, I make it fun. So, in closing, I just wanted to say I had a time to walk through this great Schrader's exhibit here. It was amazing, and I can't wait to bring my dad back. There was one thing, though. I did not see my baseball. So, can I please have Mr. Schrader come up here? I have a ball for him that I have signed that I brought from my house. A little birdie told me that I wasn't going to have one in there. So if he could come up, please, I want to present him with a baseball.
He's got the piece.
This is what baseball's all about, this young man right here. Hurt, coming back, we'll see him again someday. And the same little birdie told me to put his name on a box because he would probably look at that computer and see he wasn't in here, but it was just an oversight. I mean, I meant to get him in here. Thank you very much.
Once again, thank you. It's a great honor to be here. I can't wait for the upcoming international baseball to start at Al Lang.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, Jesse. Let's talk a little bit about Babe Ruth. And first of all, let's have a round of applause for Babe Ruth, who is here. We are looking forward to having as our guest for St. Petersburg International Baseball. The game's on March 9th and Babe Ruth Day on Monday, March the 10th. Babe Ruth's daughter. And Babe Ruth's daughter is 98 years old, 98. And she has not been back to St. Petersburg since she came with the Babe, her father, in 1943. So she's looking forward to touring around, and we made arrangements for a limousine to take her to the Floridian and out to Admiral Farragut, the club out there, and all the other places where the Babe lived during the winter seasons here. And to talk a little bit about Babe Ruth now, also celebrating a centennial in professional baseball, 100 years. We have our own Will Michaels, the former executive director of this museum, and also the keeper of the Babe Ruth flame, I guess you'd say, Mr. Tim Reed.
Well, thank you, Joe. It's a real pleasure here today to be here today to celebrate the centennial of Major League Baseball in St. Pete, and also to celebrate Babe Ruth, who was very much a resident and a part of our community for many, many years. I'm the former director of the museum here, and after I retired, I began to interview longtime residents. And one of the longtime residents that I interviewed was Ardith Rutland, who had met Babe Ruth as a child on the golf course. She was serving lemonade. And Babe Ruth was an avid golfer like Dick Crippen here. And the Babe came up and she looked at him and she asked, well, who are you? He says, I'm Babe Ruth. And she says, well, if you're Babe Ruth, where's my candy bar? Where's my Babe Ruth candy bar? And he kind of looks at her dumbfounded, and the next day he comes back again. She's still there selling lemonade. He walks up to her and gives her a candy bar, a Babe Ruth candy bar. And she looks up at him and says, what, only one? My uncle always gives me two. So the next day he came back and he dumped a whole box of Baby Ruth candy bars on her lemonade stand. Ruth was a real advocate of kids. I mean, there are all kinds of wonderful stories about Ruth and children in this community, and I think we're going to hear more about that as we celebrate the centennial over the next few days. We just recently documented that it's very possible that Babe Ruth hit the longest home run off of Major League pitching ever right here in St. Pete back in 1934, his last year actually with the Yankees. And that's very exciting. And from the standpoint of the city's history, it was in many ways baseball that really put St. Pete on the map, that really made us a great community in which to live, a great community for tourists, and which contributed to the quality of life of everyone who was here. When the Yankees were here and Babe Ruth was here, the population of St. Pete would actually triple during the spring training season. Between 1920 and 1940, the population of the city, the permanent population, tripled. And a lot of people think that's because of Major League Baseball spring training in our community. We do look forward to seeing Julia Ruth in a few days. I had the pleasure of doing a telephone interview with her about a month ago. And it's just absolutely amazing to think that she has not been here since 1943. I can't wait to get her impressions of St. Pete 70 years later. Tim here is a Babe Ruth historian as well, but he's also a Babe Ruth fanatic. And Tim, share with us some of your Babe Ruth stories.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Will for everything he's done, and Joe, the International Baseball Committee, and the city of St. Pete for everything they've done to make this happen. They're the ones who really got Julia in, and this is going to be epic. I should clarify right up front, Dennis Schrader, when I came in, asked me to sign this. My name's Tim Reed, and he thought I was Venus Flytrap. But I'll clarify that I'm not that Tim Reed. And this is a replica of Babe's bat. It was a 54-ounce bat. I can hold it, but I can't swing it. 100 years ago, this week, George Herman Ruth Jr. Left St. Mary's Industrial School for Boys, to become a professional baseball player. Within a few weeks, he was known as Babe Ruth, which is now the most famous name in sports history, and for good reason. He established himself as the greatest left-handed pitcher in the pros, and then quickly became legendary as the greatest slugger that ever lived, to this day. And this is all genuine history. Babe was as great as anyone ever thought he was then or regards him now. In 1919, he came to Tampa with the Boston Red Sox. Al Lang went over to try to get the New York Giants, who the Red Sox were playing, to come over to St. Petersburg. But he saw Babe Ruth hit this incredible home run, which is legendary to this day. It's called the Tampa State Fair home run, or the Tampa, Florida State Fair home run, in 1919. Al Lang, the great Al Lang, father of spring training in Florida, decided then he was going to get Babe Ruth to St. Petersburg. He did in 1925, but by that time Ruth was with the Yankees, of course. Ruth was the greatest show on earth. Picture the Beatles coming to St. Petersburg every winter and spring in 1965 on for 10 years. That is how big Ruth was. He was the Beatles of that era. He established himself not only for his Herculean feats on the baseball field, but in St. Pete, a town he loved, he was a charity machine. At the game on Monday, the 10th, there's going to be representatives from many of the groups he helped, from A to Y, from Old Children's Hospital to the YMCA and dozens in between. We're going to get a good share of those. I would say A to Z, but there was no zoo in St. Petersburg then. Ruth stayed and played a decade in St. Petersburg, loved the town so much that he came down every year after that, almost every year until he died at an early age, 53, in 48. When he last came to St. Petersburg, they asked Babe Ruth, what did he remember most? And he pointed at the West Coast Inn, which is where the Hilton is now. And he said, the time I hit that hotel. Bob Ward and I, Bob is a lifelong St. Petersburg, native St. Petersburg, decided years back, we heard from land surveyors the exact distance, they claimed the exact distance of that home run. We decided a few years back, especially with the explosion of the internet where you could research now more feasibly, that we were going to see what truth there was to that home run. Well, we were able to establish it greatly by anecdotal evidence, but last summer we were able to get a contemporaneous news report that he did it. And Will has written and is going to soon be published a great article on that. Tampa Bay Times recently did a great article. But in any case, thank you for the honor of letting me speak about Babe Ruth. Please know it's going to be a spectacle on Monday the 10th, and I'm sure on the 9th as well. Julia will be at both games. And we're hoping that you all can make it. It's going to be very colorful with all that the Little League is going to be represented, the Boy Scouts, the American Legion, and a dozen other groups. So it's going to be wonderful. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks to both of you. That was great. One other Babe Ruth story. Harold Richardson in the red sweater back there, the executive director of the East-West Shrine Game, walked over here to remind me that we have found another interesting piece of history, and that is that the Babe kicked a ceremonial kickoff in the second East-West Shrine Game. Babe Ruth did that. And this January, the 17th at Tropicana Field, we will play the 90th annual East-West Shrine Game. So there's another connection with Babe Ruth and the city. Finally, our final speaker this afternoon, we especially want to thank because they are our partners in this venture, the St. Petersburg Historical Museum, serving as our box office, and of course our venue this afternoon, and giving us a whole lot of other support. And Rui Frias is the executive director of the St. Petersburg Museum of History. Rui?
Hi, welcome to our home. It's been quite a year for us here at the museum. It started off on January 1st when we had the reenactment of the Tony Jannus flight, 100 years of commercial aviation, and now 100 years of baseball. And it's only fitting when the city contacted us and asked us if we wanted to get involved. It was an honor for us to get involved in this incredible event that's coming up next month. Mostly because of this incredible exhibit behind us. And Dennis and Mary Schrader, who are here somewhere out in the crowd, came to us a couple years ago with this idea, and I remember, and I love telling the story, I remember sitting in one of our board meetings when one of our board members brought up the fact that they went and saw these balls, and it was an incredible exhibit, and they couldn't wait to bring 4,000 baseballs to the museum, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, why? But and then we saw the plans, and it's amazing. If you haven't gone through it, make sure you go through it before you leave today, because it is not just a history of baseball. It's a history of St. Petersburg. It's a history of Florida. It's a history of the United States told through baseball, and it's an amazing collection. We definitely thank Dennis and Mary for bringing that to us here. This year, like I said, has been pretty amazing already with the Jannus flight and with this centennial of baseball coming up. And next month will just continue for us, along with baseball. We're going to, if you look down the gallery over there, and I invite everybody to wander through the museum before you leave, you're going to see some major changes in the next few months here. We have an exhibit coming in from the LBJ Museum that is 116 photographs of American soldiers from the Civil War to Baghdad, actually. It's a pretty forceful, powerful exhibit of the American military. And then in July, actually, when that event leaves, our main gallery, where most of St. Pete's history is kept, will turn into an exhibit called La Florida. It's the Spanish exploration of Florida. So the Spanish government is actually sending that exhibit here. And we've been, for about 6 months, tossing around the fact that how cool would it be to have a replica Spanish galleon tie-up out there where the Bounty used to be years ago. And thanks to the Chamber, we actually contacted a foundation who just happens to have one in Fort Lauderdale. So now we're in the process of talking to them and bringing it here. So in the next year, you'll see some incredible changes here with the exhibits and our new partner. We have a craft beer cafe that's opening technically tomorrow, but really next Friday. Right down at the other end of the museum, called Hops and Props. They provided the baseball fare for you today. Like I said, they'll be open tomorrow, so we'll have our own craft brewery or beer cafe here at the museum. So thank you again very much for coming. And again, it's been an honor to be involved with the organizations that put on this great event. And before you go, make sure you enjoy the baseball food in the museum. Thank you.
It was 1914, and the St. Louis Browns first played their game here in St. Pete, which really began the tradition of spring baseball here in St. Petersburg. And when you look at this stadium and this venue, there isn't a better place to play baseball anywhere in the country than right here in St. Petersburg. So we're thrilled to have this game here. We're thrilled to have baseball here in St. Petersburg. No better place to play, and everybody needs to come down and watch a game here in St. Pete.
Well, this is our best spring training memory because it's our first time and it's something we've always wanted to do.
We're from Toronto, Canada, and we've been coming down probably the last 25 or 30 years and have come to many spring training games. But our best ones a lot of them were here because we got to see Tom Selleck pitch, and what else? The other-
Kevin Costner
and Kevin
played that
Costner.
night as well. And it's a lot of when St. Louis and the New York Mets played their games here as well. And we remember this particular vendor who always sang songs about USA and veterans and so on.
And he always got to take me out to the ball game to get the fans going, and you could hear everybody singing in the section that he was in, and it was very exciting. It was good for us.
Okay, it was actually yesterday. We were here watching the Canadian Nationals play the Orioles, and we were on the side where the Jays were, and we got to meet Roberto Alomar, of course, who is famous in Canada because he was our second baseman during the World Series and is an all-star second baseman. So that's my best memory. Thank you.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I always loved St. Petersburg when I used to come with Mother and Daddy, and I'm so glad to be back. And everything's changed so much, and everything looks beautiful, just beautiful.